Okay, so I've been working a little bit on Soco's, what we call a trained retrieve. I think we're gonna have to go through this process with her because she'll retrieve things as long as they're moving, but once they stop moving, she doesn't quite understand to pick up the object and bring it all the way to you. Oh, do you want your bone? And I'm calling antlers bones because antler is just too complicated a word for them to retrieve. So she'll go get them. Yes, good girl. That was actually probably one of the better ones that she's done because once it stops moving, generally she loses interest. But she doesn't quite understand how to pick up something that's stationary. Get it. Soco, bring it here. Get it. Good girl. No, we're not going to chew on it. Good girl. Yes, good dog. So what I'm having to do is break down the process of retrieving into tiny parts using a process called successive approximation. And so what I'm doing is I actually started with a little tiny puppy bumper because, believe it or not, her teeth are still pretty sensitive. So picking up something hard like an antler is not very pleasant for her at this age, but she'll do tiny ones. For the sake of this process, it's just easier to use something that she wants in her mouth that's not painful. So what I'm doing is I'm teaching her specifically that fetch means to grab an object, any object, and hold on to it. So I'm breaking that down into two steps. First of all, just accepting something put in her mouth and learning to hold on to it. So what I'm going to be doing here is telling her fetch and putting this in her mouth, and I'll hold her mouth shut. And once, as long as she's patient and holds it in her mouth for a period of time, I'm marking that behavior with a yes and then rewarding her. It's okay, it's just one of the other dogs. The next step will be teaching her to hold on to that object. So even if it's not something that's moving, when she goes out and grabs something, you can tell her hold so she doesn't drop it on the way to you, which right now she'll do. She doesn't understand to bring it all the way to you, which doesn't matter so much with antlers. It's more of a problem with bird dogs because you don't want animals escaping, but for the sake of an antler retrieving dog, since you want her help picking up antlers, I think you'd like her to bring them all the way to you instead of just haphazardly bringing them to you. So I'll show you this process that I started with the dummy, and then we will eventually switch to the antlers, but like I said, it's just easier on her mouth. So go. Good. Hold. Good. Yes. So all I'm doing is putting this in her mouth. And right now she doesn't like it too much because I'm just kind of shoving it in there. But eventually, once she learns that she gets paid for this in her mouth, she'll actually want it there. Good girl, Soco. Good girl. Fetch. Good. No. No. Soco, no. No. Good. Good. That's a good girl. Yes. So we gotta break this down into tiny, tiny parts. Like I said, she'll pick it up. If it's thrown, get it. Good, yes. And I'm still rewarding her and encouraging this behavior, but I want her to be able to get to the point where, so come here, sit. Good girl, stay. Even if something isn't thrown, it's just sitting on the ground. Ready? Get it. No. Get it. No. Get it. Ready? Get it. See, this is the problem we run into here. Is she's not motivated to pick up something unless it's moving, unless she can chase it. Get it. Good. Good girl. You didn't bring it all the way to me. You dropped it about halfway and it rolled. Yes, there we go. So now I'm really only rewarding her when she brings stuff all the way back to me. I'm not going to have her steady to hand, which means she's bringing stuff and not dropping it. She's bringing it straight to me until I grab it. I don't think that matters for an antler retrieving dog. So that's what we're working on. Let's see if we can do 1 or 2 more reps. Good girl. Sit. Oh, good. Good. Good girl. No. Yes. This is actually pretty good for the few sessions we've had so far. A lot of puppies don't like you holding onto their face, so I had to teach her just to accept her face being held, which she doesn't really like, but she's kind of understood that she doesn't get paid unless she's still. Yes, good girl. Which is a good thing for Soco to understand anyways, because she's a busybody. Okay, ready? Get it, Soco. I know, there's a dog barking out there. Good. No. So she spit it out. Good. There's a dog barking in the backyard. Good girl, Soco. Good. Hold. Good. Good hold. Yes. That's a good girl. So we'll end there. We've actually made quite a bit of progress in this little session. I know it doesn't look like much because there's a lot of steps to this process, but she's doing very well.